6-2, 6-2, exactly 61 minutes. That is all the time Eala and Zeynep Sonmez needed to absolutely dismantle the veteran partnership of Hao-ching and Fanny Stollar. This stunning conclusion happened right at the round of 32 of the Madrid Open in 2026. How does a young duo with minimal doubles experience completely crush established specialists on the most demanding clay courts in the world? The answer is not luck. It is not a random fluctuation in form. It is a calculated tactical revolution that directly exposes a fatal flaw in the current doubles landscape. Look at the cold numbers from the match. Eala and Sonmez secured 74% of points on their first serve. They left their opponents trailing far behind with a dismal 56%. When the high-pressure breakpoint opportunities arrived, the young duo converted 5 out of 5. That is absolute statistical perfection. They strung together a massive 10-game winning streak right through the heart of the match. This relentless pressure pushed the veteran team into a state of total tactical panic. Furthermore, they committed 0 double faults in 61 minutes of high-stakes tennis. 0. You simply do not see that level of clinical execution from a newly formed partnership facing seasoned experts. When you look at these numbers, you realize this was not just a victory. It was a complete systematic breakdown of traditional doubles tennis. If you think this 6-2 sweep is just a random accident within the ranking system, you're missing the entire picture of the current clay court season. Why is this sudden upset a massive red alert threatening the livelihood of every doubles specialist on the tour? You have to understand the profound paradox of this specific partnership. Eala and Sonmez were fighting each other in a fierce singles battle just months ago in Abu Dhabi. Now they are standing on the same side of the net. They brought a pure singles mentality into a doubles arena. This aggressive approach completely shatters the traditional structure of one player serving while the other strictly guards the net. They bypassed the standard playbook entirely. Instead of engaging in delicate net exchanges, they used heavy baseline power to destroy the defensive spacing of their opponents. The environment played a crucial role in this destruction. Madrid is not a standard clay court tournament. The Caixa Magica complex sits high above sea level. The thin air makes the ball fly significantly faster and bounce much higher than it does at sea-level tournaments. This altitude perfectly amplified the massive topspin generated by the young players. Every single ground stroke from the racket of Eala pushed the veterans further and further back behind the baseline. Hao-ching is a recognized master at the net. She has built an entire career on anticipating angles and hitting delicate drop volleys. But you cannot execute a delicate volley when the ball is diving violently at your shoelaces with massive rotational force. The heavy spin completely neutralized the net presence of Hao-ching. Let us talk about the exact physical mechanics that make this happen. When you step onto the red dirt of the Caixa Magica, you are not just fighting your opponent, you are fighting the earth itself. Clay courts demand immense physical endurance and precise footwork. Standard doubles teams rely on a slow build-up of the point. They use slice serves to pull the returner wide. They use soft looping shots to buy time to rush the net. Eala and Sonmez threw that entire philosophy out the window. They approached the doubles match with the ferocity of a high-stakes singles final. The heavy topspin forehand of Eala is a weapon forged for modern baseline combat. When she strikes the ball, the racket head drops below her wrist before accelerating violently upward. This creates massive revolutions on the ball. On a hard court, this ball might slide through the surface. On the high-altitude clay of Madrid, that ball grips the dirt and explodes upward. This upward explosion forced Hao-ching to hit volleys from shoulder height. Hitting a defensive volley from above your shoulders removes all the power from your shot. It is a purely reactive movement. Hao-ching was no longer dictating the point at the net. She was merely surviving. This shift in power dynamics was visible within the first 10 minutes of the match. You could see the frustration building in the body language of the veteran players. They were constantly looking at their coaching box for answers that simply did not exist. The statistics validate this absolute neutralization. The veteran specialist earned exactly 1 break point in the entire match. She failed to convert it. But raw baseline power alone does not win a professional match in exactly 61 minutes. The real secret behind this total sweep lies hidden in the exact trajectory of the second serve. The core difference in this match came from how Eala and Sonmez completely reconstructed the geometry of the baseline rally. How do you stop a volley specialist from dominating the net when you're not a natural net player yourself? You must force them to play your game on your terms. Sonmez executed a relentless strategy of targeting the backhand corner of the court. She hit sharp, aggressive angles that forced the veteran players to stretch horizontally. When a tennis player is forced to stretch on a sliding clay court, they lose their kinetic chain. They cannot transfer their body weight into the shot. As a result, they hit weak and floating replies back over the net. Let us dive deeper into the concept of the kinetic chain. In professional tennis, power does not come from the arm. Power comes from the ground. A player pushes off the clay, rotates the hips, uncoils the torso, and finally snaps the wrist. This sequence is the kinetic chain. When Sonmez hit those extreme angles, she forced Stollar to hit the ball while on the dead run. When you are running horizontally on clay, your feet are sliding. You cannot plant your feet to start the kinetic chain. You are forced to hit the ball using only the muscles in your arm. This results in a shot that has absolutely no pace and no heavy spin. It becomes a sitting duck. This floating ball is exactly what Eala was waiting for. Eala delivered a masterclass in poaching. Poaching is the act of crossing the center of the net to intercept a ball meant for your partner. Most young players hesitate when poaching because it leaves their side of the court entirely open. Eala did not hesitate once. She utilized her elite lateral speed to cut across the net the exact moment the ball left the racket of the opponent. The timing was terrifyingly precise. It created a visual effect of total suffocation for the opposing team. Every time they tried to hit a safe shot, Eala was already there waiting to smash it away. This is where the tactical genius of their pairing truly shone. Eala knew exactly when Sonmez was about to hit that severe angle. Before Stollar even made contact with the sliding ball, Eala was already moving. She abandoned her designated side of the court entirely. This is a massive risk. If Stollar somehow managed to hit the ball down the line, Eala would look foolish. But the young duo calculated the geometry of the court perfectly. They knew the physics of the slide made a down-the-line shot impossible. Eala arrived at the center of the net perfectly balanced. She met the floating ball at its highest point and punched it away into the open court. The crowd at the Caja Magica gasped at the sheer audacity of the movement. We also must analyze their destructive return of serve. Eala and Sonmez won a staggering 73% of points when returning the second serve of their opponents. They did not just return the ball, they attacked it. They stepped far inside the baseline and hit the ball on the rise. This aggressive positioning stole precious reaction time away from Stollar and Hao-ching. When you take away time on a clay court, you induce panic. There was a profound nonverbal synchronization between the two young players. They switched positions dynamically without ever leaving a blind spot open on the court. This level of chemistry is exceptionally rare for players who do not train together all year round. They found the fatal weakness of Fanny Stollar. Stollar struggles with sudden directional changes on the slippery clay surface. Eala and Sonmez isolated this weakness by hitting directly at her feet. They forced her into awkward, off-balance defensive scoops. You could physically see the veteran team shrinking on the court. Hao-ching is a player who thrives on rhythm and predictable patterns. She wants you to hit the ball right at her, so she can redirect the pace. Eala and Sonmez refused to give her any pace at the net. They bypassed her completely or hit the ball with so much topspin that it dipped below the top tape of the net before reaching her. Hao-ching was forced to hit weak, scooping volleys upward. This gave the offensive initiative right back to the young duo. It was a suffocating loop of tactical domination. By the time the veteran pair realized they were trapped in this tactical nightmare, the score was already 6-2 in the first set. They were utterly exhausted from running side to side. The first set concluded in a blur of aggressive winners and forced errors. The scoreline of 6-2 felt almost generous to the veterans. They were entirely outclassed in every single metric of the game. Professional tennis matches often feature momentum swings. The prevailing logic suggested that the veteran team would use the set break to reset their strategy. They would surely figure out a way to slow the game down. They would try to hit higher, deeper balls to push Eala away from the net. Everyone expected the young team to feel the pressure of the moment and tighten up. Everyone expected them to play it safe to protect their lead. But that is not what happened. The most unexpected development of the entire match was the incredibly reckless decision Eala and Sonmez made at the exact beginning of the second set. Most tennis analysts predicted the second set would feature a fierce rebellion from the veteran team. They were entirely wrong. Instead of retreating to protect their safe lead, Eala and Sonmez accelerated the pace and embraced even higher tactical risks. Why would a winning team change a flawless formula? They recognized a psychological fracture in their opponents and moved in for the final blow. Let us talk about the psychology of that transition. Most players feel fear when they hold a massive lead. They stop attacking. Eala and Sonmez did the exact opposite. They smelled blood in the water. They increased the velocity of their ground strokes by a significant margin. They pushed the veteran team so far back they were practically touching the advertising boards. This aggressive targeting created total chaos on the dirt. They constantly swapped the player returning the serve. One point Eala would stand wide. The next point Sonmez would crowd the center. This unpredictable rotation completely shattered the net positioning of Fanny Stollar. Stollar never knew where the next attack would originate. She froze. When a tennis player freezes on clay, the point is already over. Furthermore, Sonmez established a relentless rapid-fire serving rhythm. She marched to the baseline and delivered the ball instantly. She bounced the ball only once before throwing it into the sky. This relentless tempo stripped the veteran team of any time to discuss strategy between points. They could not look at each other to plan a defensive move. You could see the panic setting in as the seconds evaporated from the shot clock. Eala and Sonmez completely dominated the service games. They won a perfect 7 out of 7 service games across the entire match. They never even faced a break point in the second set. The statistics chart a perfect race to the finish line. But is this absolute destruction merely a temporary peak in performance, or is this the definitive formula to break the traditional doubles system of the tour? The physical data does not lie. This match was not a random explosion of youthful talent. The numbers validate a permanent shift in power. What physical evidence proves this young team can carry this devastating momentum deep into the Madrid 1000 tournament? Look at the raw pressure metrics. They hammered 21 outright winners directly from their first serve. Hitting 21 winners in 61 minutes is an absurd ratio. They maintained maximum safety while executing maximum aggression. The speed of their execution was terrifying to watch. The average time per point dropped to record lows. This rapid pace forced the doubles specialists to compete at the exhausting, breathless tempo of a high-speed singles match. The veterans simply could not breathe. Look closely at the positioning map of the court. The digital movement trackers reveal 0 overlapping runs between the two young players. They danced around the clay without ever stepping into the space of their partner. They covered the court with the precision of a synchronized military unit. This flawless spatial awareness saved massive amounts of energy. They did not waste a single step. They needed only 61 minutes to clear the round of 32. By finishing the match so quickly, they preserved all their physical reserves for the brutal path ahead. With this level of clinical devastation, the biggest question now looms over the round of 16. Who possesses the sheer physical force required to slow their momentum? 6-2, 6-2. This cold, brutal scoreline broadcasts a direct threat to the entire doubles draw in Madrid. How does this singular event permanently elevate the status of Eala on the global stage? Escaping the round of 32 is no longer just about earning ranking points. It is a loud validation of her ability to adapt and conquer at the highest elite level. This match triggers a dangerous new trend in the sport. It proves that explosive singles players can combine their raw speed to obliterate the stationary net dominance of older specialists. This high-intensity doubles format acts as the ultimate training ground for her. It sharpens the net reflexes of Eala under extreme pressure. This rapid reaction skill is the final missing piece she needs to achieve total dominance in her singles career. The pressure now shifts entirely to the top seeds waiting in the round of 16. The elite teams must completely tear down and rebuild their defensive systems overnight. They can no longer rely on their standard tactical playbooks. If Eala and Sonmez continue to unleash this baseline terror, the Madrid Open of 2026 will not just be another tournament on the calendar. It will be remembered as ground zero. It will mark the exact moment the traditional foundations of professional doubles tennis began to crack. The veterans are officially on notice. The real war has only just begun.